Meghan Markle is suddenly at the center of a dramatic new twist, catching people off guard everywhere. What was once steady tension between Meghan Markle, Prince Harry, and the royal family has now escalated into something far more intense, with major voices in the UK stepping in unexpectedly. The idea of removing royal titles is no longer just online speculation. It's now being discussed in some of the most powerful circles imaginable. For years, Meghan Markle has remained in the spotlight, drawing both support and backlash while fueling constant debate. But this moment feels different. Heavier, louder, and far more serious. There's a growing sense that certain insiders are running out of patience, as if boundaries have been crossed too many times. If things actually move forward, this could mark a defining new chapter for Meghan Markle in royal history, with no turning back. So, what's really happening behind closed doors? Why are members of the House of Lords stepping in at this particular moment? And how did the situation escalate to the point where something this extreme is even being considered? Questions are mounting, and the information beginning to surface is drawing significant attention. This situation didn't just explode overnight. It's been building for some time. It initially moved quietly, like a low murmur passing through Westminster. This wasn't messy gossip, an internet stunt, or random noise. It felt deliberate, controlled, and far more serious than what people are used to seeing. Something was building behind closed doors, and before it could be ignored, it evolved into a formal motion within the House of Lords, the very core of deep-rooted power and tradition. This wasn't about quick headlines or viral drama. It was about image, influence, and who truly holds control. The situation is no longer just simmering on the surface. It has entered serious territory, with pressure now coming directly from powerful internal circles. Meghan Markle, still known as the Duchess of Sussex for now, could be facing a reality where that title is no longer hers to use. And this is no longer just speculation or social media chatter. This is no longer just background noise. It's people within the system making calculated moves. There hasn't been a single major scandal triggering all of this, nor any dramatic reveal. Instead, it's been a series of quiet conversations building behind the scenes until they became impossible to contain. Now that slow buildup is hitting like a shockwave through the UK's power structure. For the first time in years, individuals connected to Britain's traditional elite are stepping forward in a bold and noticeable way, and many see it as a direct signal aimed at Meghan Markle. A formal petition has now been introduced in the House of Lords. This is official business, not symbolic, not attention-seeking. The possibility of removing her Duchess of Sussex title is no longer a distant idea people once dismissed. It is now under active discussion. What once seemed unrealistic is being taken seriously, shaking the very foundation she appeared to rely on. Reports suggest that Meghan Markle is still publicly embracing her royal identity, even as questions grow about how secure it truly is. At the same time, individuals who were once close to her are reportedly creating distance, one after another, raising even more questions. Behind the headlines and public reactions, there is also talk of quiet legal pressure building, adding further weight to an already intense situation. The tone is shifting quickly because this is no longer just about status. It's about something much deeper. Public perception is shifting rapidly, and it's becoming more complicated by the day. Criticism is growing louder, with conversations about her past spreading quickly across online platforms. Social media is filled with strong opinions, and some critics have even begun calling Meghan Markle the Duchess of Drama, a label that is gaining traction and proving difficult to shake. Things take an even more intense turn as online discussions escalate, with users making sharp comparisons. Some have even claimed that Gayle King, the well-known talk show host, appears more authentic and relatable than Meghan Markle. Whether fair or not, this narrative is spreading rapidly, gaining momentum and drawing more people into the debate. Then came the podcast moment with Jamie Kern-Lima, the self-made billionaire known for her inspiring interviews and success-driven storytelling. It was expected to be emotional, raw, and deeply honest, but viewers quickly began to question its authenticity. Instead of feeling natural, many started viewing the conversation with skepticism, adding yet another layer of controversy to an already intense situation. Many viewers said the overall vibe felt stiff and overly planned. Some even linked it to Meghan Markle's past appearances, suggesting it carried the same polished, almost scripted energy she has often been associated with. During the interview, Meghan Markle appeared visibly emotional, wiping her eyes while speaking about pressure. However, viewers quickly noticed something unusual. There didn't seem to be any actual tears. That detail alone ignited social media, with many questioning whether the moment was genuine or carefully staged, and the reactions showed no signs of slowing down. Then, older clips resurfaced, showing Meghan Markle once explaining that she could cry on cue, bringing out tears whenever needed. Those clips spread rapidly, and suddenly the entire podcast moment began to look different to many viewers. What was intended to feel deep and emotional started to come across, for some, as more of a rehearsed performance than a truly genuine moment. That shift in reaction only made the situation surrounding Meghan Markle even more intense. The old clip didn't just resurface. It spread rapidly across the internet, instantly changing how many people viewed the podcast moment. What initially seemed emotional and sincere began to appear far more strategic than heartfelt to some viewers. The timing only added fuel to the fire, and once doubt set in, it continued to grow stronger. Just as things seemed like they might settle, body language expert Scott Rouse entered the conversation, pushing it even further. He pointed to Meghan Markle's repeated blinking, certain facial expressions, and gestures that didn't fully align with her words. According to his analysis, such signals can sometimes indicate discomfort or a disconnect between what someone is saying and what they are actually feeling. While she spoke about pressure and emotional strain, her voice sounded tense, yet her facial expressions remained unusually composed, showing little visible distress. This perceived mismatch quickly caught people's attention, adding even more scrutiny to an already heated situation. This led people to question everything. Was the emotion real? Or was it something more measured and controlled? Another detail soon began circulating as well. Meghan Markle mentioned that she writes emails to her children every night, messages intended for them to read in the future. On the surface, it sounds thoughtful and personal, but the internet reacted with mixed opinions. Some saw it as sweet and meaningful, while others doubted whether such a routine could realistically be maintained long-term. That divide only added more noise to an already intense situation. Then came a moment that truly caught people's attention. During the podcast, a gift basket from Meghan Markle was shown, appearing at first to be a simple and thoughtful gesture. However, once viewers noticed the handwritten note attached, signed Her Royal Highness, the conversation shifted quickly. That detail immediately raised questions, as the title is not typically meant to be used in that way anymore. Naturally, people began asking why it appeared at all. Was it simply habit, part of a personal brand, or something else entirely? Regardless of the reason, it drew even more attention and scrutiny to Meghan Markle and the situation surrounding her. All of this has drawn even more attention to a situation that is already under intense scrutiny and still unfolding. But it goes far beyond social media chatter or viral moments. This has now reached the highest levels of power. A formal motion has reportedly been introduced in Parliament by Lord Simon Lee, and it is not standing alone. It is said to have support from both Conservative and Labour sides, which immediately signals that this is being taken seriously, not dismissed as a minor issue. The petition itself is being described as unprecedented, with direct and hard-to-ignore wording. It raises concerns about breaking long-standing protocols, using royal status in questionable ways, and potentially gaining commercial benefits tied to a title connected to the crown. Those backing the motion argue that the title has not been used in the way it was originally intended. At this stage, the matter has moved beyond public debate and into a legal and political arena where the consequences could be significant and long-lasting. What stands out most is the growing sense that Parliament is now actively engaged in addressing the situation surrounding Meghan Markle. Parliament now appears to be stepping forward where silence once held things back. Some officials believe action is being considered because earlier concerns were never formally addressed. That shift alone highlights how far this situation has escalated, and why it's becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. One moment repeatedly drawn into this discussion is the private trip to Nigeria involving Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. During the visit, they attended formal events, connected with high-level figures, and delivered speeches that, to some observers, carried the tone of official royal duties. This quickly raised concerns in certain circles, with questions emerging about whether the line between personal activity and official representation was beginning to blur. According to reports, both government insiders and royal officials were caught off guard by how the visit unfolded. That element of surprise is a key reason why some voices in the House of Lords are treating this as more than just an image issue. It's about how the UK is represented on a broader stage. Concerns are now being raised about how the UK is represented on an international level, and whether mixed signals are being sent. At the same time, public opinion is adding even more pressure. A YouGov poll from May 2025 indicated that a strong majority of people supported removing the Duchess of Sussex title from Meghan Markle. Whether that opinion holds or shifts over time, one thing is clear. The conversation has grown too large to ignore. What's drawing even more attention is the scale of the backlash, with some suggesting it has surpassed the reaction to that major televised interview. Even more striking is how people with completely different viewpoints are finding common ground on this issue. For many, royal titles are not something that can be used selectively. They represent responsibility, history, and deep-rooted tradition. That's why emotions are running high and why the situation continues to gain momentum. At this point, the issue is no longer centered solely on Meghan Markle. It has expanded into a broader debate with far-reaching implications. New polling shows that a noticeable number of people are also questioning Prince Harry's titles, including whether he should continue using His Royal Highness. Still, at this stage, most of the spotlight remains firmly on Meghan Markle, as debates around image, branding, and royal identity continue to intensify. One clip that keeps resurfacing in these discussions comes from a major concert event in Los Angeles. In that widely shared moment, Meghan Markle was seen laughing and saying, "You know, I'm Sussex now," while speaking with people nearby. She also told Mindy Kaling to call her Meghan Sussex. Some viewers interpreted it as playful and casual, but critics viewed it differently, raising concerns about how the title is being used and presented. That brief interaction has since been repeatedly referenced across ongoing discussions, especially by those backing the petition. They argue it points to a pattern where the title is being used more casually, or even for promotional purposes, rather than with the traditional level of formality. The language used in the petition is also described as direct, suggesting that this kind of usage could weaken the meaning of a title so closely tied to the crown. Now, legal experts are also stepping into the discussion. Some have referred to long-established guidelines around royal titles, stating that using them publicly in connection with personal branding could raise important questions. Not everyone agrees with this interpretation, but the fact that the debate is happening at all shows how layered and serious the situation has become. The continued use of HRH, despite instructions not to, has reportedly caused frustration within Buckingham Palace. One commentator described it as absolutely infuriating, reflecting the strength of feeling surrounding the issue. A source said to be close to the Prince of Wales speaking to the Daily Beast was referenced, while journalist Charlotte Griffiths also reported claims that Prince William has no intention of certain arrangements involving his younger brother being included in official plans or events. Reports suggest that officials have been quietly monitoring recent public appearances and statements, with the broader message becoming increasingly clear. Some decision-makers believe the boundary between personal branding and royal identity needs to be defined more strictly. With the petition now formally underway, many observers argue that this may not be the peak of the situation, but rather the beginning of a larger shift that could influence how royal titles and roles are handled moving forward. This is not being framed as tabloid buzz or random online drama. It is being presented as coming from the center of British institutional power, which is why it is landing so differently. While the monarchy has remained publicly silent, and King Charles III has not directly intervened, the House of Lords is being described as signaling its position in a more formal and structured way. The implication being made is that the issue has moved beyond headlines and into more serious constitutional territory. Meghan Markle's Duchess of Sussex title is now being discussed in a way that some believe could influence how it is viewed in the long term. At the same time, supporters are pushing back, arguing that much of the criticism directed at Meghan Markle crosses into unfair territory and raises concerns about bias and unequal treatment. However, those supporting the petition maintain that the issue is not about personal opinion, but about rules, structure, and constitutional standards. The House of Lords, as emphasized in these discussions, is not seen as an institution that reacts to gossip or viral moments, but one that operates within formal parliamentary processes. Their focus remains on law, precedent, and royal protocol. Right now, Meghan Markle's title is being examined within that framework. The petition itself has been described as highly specific, pointing to what critics argue are repeated breaches of royal communication guidelines. These are not being treated as minor or outdated rules, but as part of a long-established system built over generations, particularly in relation to public messaging on a global stage. The concern being raised is that certain public appearances and projects may have crossed boundaries that are traditionally expected to remain firmly in place. One detail frequently mentioned in these discussions is Meghan Markle's podcast, which has also been referenced during wider debates. Critics argue that it blended personal storytelling with her public identity in a way that some view as blurring those established lines. Royal identity in a way that reached a global audience quickly. Conversations about family dynamics, personal struggles, and broader social issues all played a role. While the content attracted significant attention, it also reportedly made some officials uneasy about how those messages might reflect on the institution as a whole. The palace has remained publicly silent, but Parliament appears less willing to stay on the sidelines. Some members believe that when statements are made while holding a royal title, they carry significant international weight and can influence how the monarchy is perceived across the Commonwealth. This is where pressure begins to build and tensions rise. At the center of the debate, the issue is not simply about freedom of expression. It is about where the line should be drawn between personal identity and royal representation. Voice and the responsibility that comes with a historic title. Now that this issue is being examined at a high level, the spotlight on Meghan Markle's position is becoming even more intense. The petition reportedly goes further, focusing on what critics describe as the commercial use of royal titles. Those backing the motion argue that Meghan Markle and Prince Harry have not only engaged in media deals, but have also developed projects closely tied to the Sussex name. This, they say, is where concerns begin to intensify. From major streaming platforms to high-profile releases, the Sussex branding has remained prominent, with titles like Duke and Duchess of Sussex clearly featured. One example frequently referenced is their well-known docu-series, which introduces them using their royal titles. Critics argue that this framing can blur the line between personal projects and royal identity, making it harder to separate the two. As a result, Meghan Markle's broader media appearances and brand-related ventures are also being included in the discussion, adding another layer to an already complex debate. Bigger picture. Supporters describe it as independence and building her own path, while critics interpret it very differently. Then there are moments like the Nigeria trip, high-profile interviews, and global media features, all being added into the discussion. Some observers argue that these appearances combine elements of public duty with celebrity-level exposure, and that contrast is what continues to drive strong reactions. For those who believe royal titles should remain strictly tied to official roles, that blend does not sit well. Now that the House of Lords is being mentioned in connection with the issue, the overall tone of the situation has shifted significantly, with the debate becoming more formal and politically charged in nature. The argument being pushed is that this has moved beyond headlines and into something much deeper. It is now being framed as an issue about protecting the meaning and structure behind royal titles. Even though the monarchy has remained silent, government figures are being described as stepping forward more directly, which in turn makes the situation appear more serious. What began as a personal decision to step away has, in this narrative, come full circle in an unexpected way. At this stage, it is no longer just about leaving royal duties behind. It is about what happens to the title that came with them. The pressure is being described as reaching a new level, because whatever outcome follows could potentially set a precedent for years to come. This is no longer being framed as an issue involving only Meghan Markle. Instead, it is being presented as a broader question about how clear the boundaries should be for anyone connected to royal titles in the future, which is why the attention around it continues to grow. All eyes are now locked on what comes next. If this motion gains real momentum, it could lead to tighter rules around how royal titles are used, especially in relation to activities outside official duties. That alone would represent a significant shift in how these titles function moving forward. Behind closed doors, discussions are reportedly intensifying, with insiders suggesting that officials are seriously considering the long-term implications of such a decision. Stripping a royal title is not a step taken lightly, and that is precisely why this moment is being treated as highly significant. It is being seen as sending a message not only to Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, but also to anyone who steps back from royal responsibilities while still publicly associated with a royal status. At the same time, public reaction is becoming increasingly divided. Some argue the move is long overdue, while others believe it raises broader concerns about fairness and precedent, arguing that titles should come with firm limits that cannot be pushed. Others feel it could go too far, turning a personal situation into something much larger and more confrontational. That split in opinion is only adding more intensity to an already heated situation. And this is where the narrative shifts again. If any formal action is taken, it would not just affect Meghan Markle in the present moment. It could also reshape how she is viewed in the long term. Every future appearance, project, and headline would potentially be interpreted differently. A title that once carried significant influence could be removed, replaced by a completely different public identity. One thing is clear: this story is not fading anytime soon. It continues to build step by step into something that could have lasting impact. How the whole system works. Just when it feels like the situation couldn't get any more intense, another twist begins building quietly in the background. If this motion actually moves forward, it would not be a fast or simple process. It would involve multiple layers of review, debate, and approval, bringing more senior figures into the discussion. That means the story is unlikely to conclude anytime soon. It could stretch over weeks or even months, keeping Meghan Markle's name at the center of attention throughout. What makes the situation even more unpredictable is that there is still no clear agreement on how it will ultimately unfold. Some insiders believe the motion could lose momentum before reaching any final decision, while others think it is gaining strength in a way that may be difficult to slow down. In a situation like this, uncertainty itself is what continues to drive the conversation forward. Perception can be just as powerful as the outcome itself. Even the idea of a title being at risk at this level is enough to shift how people interpret the situation in a major way. At the same time, every move Meghan Markle makes is now under a microscope like never before. Every appearance, statement, and small detail is being closely analyzed, with people trying to read between the lines. Is she staying steady under pressure? Is she adjusting her approach? Or is she remaining firm despite the scrutiny? All the noise getting louder? Even the smallest moments are being turned into major talking points. And here's where it becomes even more layered. The royal family has not stepped in publicly, and that silence has not gone unnoticed. Some people interpret it as a calculated move, while others see it as deliberate distance. But either way, it adds further uncertainty to the situation. Right now, everything feels unpredictable, as though it could shift in any direction. One decision could potentially change the course of the entire situation. That is where things currently stand, and the story continues to unfold in real time. What began as quiet speculation has grown into a much larger public discussion, drawing attention from multiple sides. No matter how it ultimately develops, it remains under close watch as events continue to evolve. Whether the motion pushes forward or fades away, the conversation around Meghan Markle, royal titles, and what they truly represent has already shifted in a noticeable way. Now it's your turn to weigh in. Do you think this kind of move is justified, or is it going too far? Share your thoughts in the comments, because this debate is only getting louder, with people everywhere continuing to take sides. And before you go, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this with others who want to stay updated. More updates are coming.